Hello, I wanted to give you a little bit more background on the Marshall Plan and this theory of containment. So when we read over the Marshall Plan, came up with General George Marshall. Now, General George Marshall is the leader of the American forces in Europe. And he's going to write this plan to Congress, to the President of the United States, basically saying, here's the plan and here's how we are going to stop communism from spreading. So to understand this a little bit more, there's a couple things that you need to understand. And first is the fundamental difference between communism and capitalism. The fundamental difference between the East, whereas communism is running, and the West, where capitalism is dominant. Now, the goal of communism and the goal of capitalism. In communism, it is all about equality. In capitalism, it's all about competition and private ownership, and then making money. So a couple things to understand with that. If you are poor, you are much more likely to turn towards communism than you are if you are rich. Okay, a poor person is not going to, or a rich person is not necessarily going to go towards communism quite as easily. And the example I gave to a couple of you in class, and I'll give it right through here, is two different people who are owning two different cars, okay? There's gonna be one person who's owning a brand new Rolls Royce, and there's gonna be another person who is owning a 35-year-old Volkswagen that is totally beat up and falling apart. Now, if someone else comes in and says, we're gonna make a law that everyone is going to drive the exact same vehicle, everyone's going to get a 2011 Ford Focus to drive. If you're that person who's been driving a 35-year-old beat-up Volkswagen, you're gonna be pretty happy with this equality. Everyone's gonna have the same thing. You're gonna be getting a much better deal. But if you're that person driving a 2019 brand new Rolls Royce, you're going to be upset because you're losing something that you had and that you really enjoyed having. This is kind of the situation going on with capitalism and communism. Countries that are struggling already are going to be much more likely to turn towards communism than a country that is doing well. So Marshall's plan is to feed these countries a bunch of money, help them develop economically, and then hope that because of that, they're not going to really have that temptation to turn into communism quite so badly. And it's ultimately going to be effective. Also in here, he talks about the need for the Americans to look for a cure instead of using palliative cures on communism. Now, this comes from the medical term palliative care, which is simply not getting rid of the disease, but simply maintaining the disease and controlling the disease. So in this situation, the cancer, so to speak, that's spreading throughout Europe, the body of Europe, is going to be communism. The American goal at this time is very palliative. We're going to simply maintain communism where it is at. We're going to contain communism, containment talking about right through there. We're going to contain communism into a certain area and not let it spread. Just like palliative care, you're going to contain that tumor into a certain area, but you're not going to let that tumor spread. Marshall's saying that the United States needs to do something completely different. Instead of using palliative care with communism and just keeping it where it already is, they need to go and find an actual cure for communism to get the world rid of communism from the get-go. That is going to be what you need to understand about these two things. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later, and good luck.